When we look at Oregon in this region and their exclusionary laws against blacks in the state of Oregon, and this effect, when we look at this time and the coming to the Pacific Ocean, we got to understand the time of the Sagittarius and what took place in the genocide of the Australian Aborigines. Around this time that we see that the unionizing of Oregon and California, and we see the exclusionary acts placed on the blacks. We got to understand the genocide also that takes place during this time, around the 17th and 18th century, where you have the complete genocide at the time when these colonizers now have the ability to travel along this Pacific, learning the crossing to come into the Sedona Plate. Now, the significance of the Sedona Plate is that when this subduction zone took place of this great flood, it left these islands, so these isolated locations. So these sea travels from prehistoric times. We're talking about prehistoric. We're talking about in the beginnings when Cain left, right, and traveled to the wilderness. This traveling in this time of the wilderness, when we look at Lent and Amanent and lamenting, and this time of the West, and this time of the crossing of the Southern Crossing, when we look at Polynesia in this region of the South Easter Island, when we understand Estar and the Black Star, Ikua, Yeshua, and Shua, and the winds, and these tropical wind, navigational trade, tropics, and the need to travel, to do pure religion, to bring to all. So we understand gifts and pure religion and the need to travel. These ancient Negus, these ancient travelers travel to provide the solar lunar mythos as being these shamans, being these intercessors for all, to making sure that all were provided for based upon the knowledge that they had of the times and knowing when to plant, when to sow, when to reap. All of these things, when we look at ruling and measuring, were essential. So when we look at these locations of these islands, we look at what took place on Valentine's Day, the Valentine's Day Massacre. Now, if you're familiar with the time Valentine's Day and what takes place in Lent in the 40 days, and the significance of this region into the time of the Passover over the springing. So we understand that this region of this tropic of Capricorn during the Southern Crossing, this winter solstice, into these regions, when we look at what took place in the Cook Islands, in this Valentine's Day Massacre, in the genocide, Aboriginal people have always dwelt in these regions, melanated people. They even named these areas here of the Sagittarius in these regions, and these are isolated areas. So we can see what took place over the different invasions to the Ada people in the Philippines and the Grito tribes, and how the Mongolian influences of what we know as Asian today, of the Japanese and Chinese, has affected their populations in the Philippines, as well as other European colonists who had came to these different areas and mixed in raping and pillaging these islands, but they're isolated. So we can see here in this region of the Sagittarius where we find the prime meridian that's twined with this tropical Cancer, which is during the time of the summer. The tropical Cancer, which is twined with this tropic of Capricorn, makes this great horizon, or what we call the prime meridian. So when we see this region of Mut and Mu, this sunken continent, and the Sedona Plate, and the subduction zone of this region of the Southern Cross, the tropical Capricorn during the winter solstice, into these regions of Australia, where we find the Melanesia and Polynesian triangle, from Easter Island, Estar Island, across the Pacific. So when we look at these people and we see the complete genocide and the completion of the New World, the conquering, the colonization of the New World, we must